Hi, I'm attorney Gregory Dell, joined by attorney Cesar Gavidia, and today we're going to talk about one of Cesar's success stories of helping a claimant who was denied disability benefits by Unum and how he was able to help this particular client get her benefits reinstated. So, Cesar, you've handled thousands of claims and reviewed thousands of denials of people who've been denied by Unum. And in this video, I want to talk about what you were able to do for this particular client, the strategies you went through, and basically how you were able to convince Unum that this claimant was disabled. So when we get into it, what was the background of this particular case against Unum?
So our client actually came to us after, at a point when many people come to us, that she was actually approved by Unum. It's not uncommon to be initially approved by a disability insurance company, particularly Unum. And after about 10 months of payments, I think they approved her for about 10 months, they suddenly terminated the claim. They stopped the claim. They said they'd done a medical review, and they found that she was no longer disabled from her own occupation, which in her case was working as a paralegal, a legal assistant for a very large corporate firm, law firm.
And so what were her job responsibilities as a paralegal?
So in her particular case, because paralegals could do different things, you have transactional types of paralegals, like there's transactional lawyers. She was involved more on the defense side and litigation defense side, so representing corporations and working with her lawyers and their litigation teams in preparing, legal pleadings and filings and kind of running the full spectrum of maintaining cases throughout litigation, setting up depositions, even doing certain amount of legal research and things like that.
So she basically had what's considered a sedentary duty classification.
Exactly.
Okay. And what was her medical conditions that prevented her from being able to work?
So she was diagnosed with a few things, all kind of related to her spine. The focus of most of her problems was related in her lumbar spine. She underwent a lumbar fusion, a surgery to try to resolve the pain issues, spondylosis there and radiculopathy there, and then was also having issues in her cervical spine, in her neck. So a lot of chronic pain issues, a lot of radiating pain issues, shooting pains into her legs, into her hands, into her fingers. I mean, really, really distracting, really, really painful, really, really debilitating type of complications here that, when you think about it, particularly with sedentary type of work where you're sitting, it actually worsens that those types of symptoms, because it compresses, that sitting position compresses the spine and makes it much, much worse versus someone who has the liberty of getting up or being able to walk around and ambulate. It's sitting in that position for extended periods of time in this static, non-moving position that basically makes things much worse.
You mentioned she had surgery on her back. Did she go back to work after having surgery, or did she become disabled and then have surgery?
She actually did. She was released by her surgeon, which is not uncommon, after her recovery period, and had kind of paid her up through that point to go back to work, and she tried going back to work, and unfortunately within about a month or two, the pain was just too much. It was too debilitating, and she couldn't continue.
So was she already getting paid before she tried? So she was able to try to go back to work?
So most of these employee benefit plans are set up with a short-term disability and a long-term disability. So the short-term usually covers about a period of 6 months, which in a case where someone goes in for a surgery and there's a recovery period, that usually covers that. And then the long-term takes over after the 6 months. So it kind of came in right then. I mean, she got through the 6-month recovery period, she got through the short-term benefits, she tried going back to work for a month or two, and then had to go back out of work, and it was kind of right at that point where it was a transition right into long-term. You don't go through the short-term again. You transition basically into a long-term because your waiting period or elimination period would have been met.
What was Unum's basis for denying her long-term disability claim?
So they really hadn't done much. I mean, you would have expected for someone like this, particularly someone who'd undergone such a significant type of surgery, and with the type of problems and complications she was having, they would have at least had her scheduled for some sort of independent exam. And when we say independent, it's not really so independent, because these doctors are kind of on this rotation wheel of doctors that they go to and do this type of insurance reviews for them, on a constant basis. So they hadn't done that. All they'd basically done was a paper review of her file, okay? And the paper review of her file involves this medical doctor sitting there going through the records and providing Unum with an opinion about whether she has limitations or restrictions, or really whether the records reflect that she's disabled.
In most of the Unum denials that I see, especially initial denials, they use their own employed doctors. Is that what happened in this case?
In this case, with the paper review, it was their own internal medical consultants or peer review doctors. It wasn't, they didn't really go out to a specialist. Unum actually has an internal, for particular specialties in common disabilities like orthopedic injuries or neurological problems. It's not uncommon to find in-house doctors who are orthopedic specialists or neurologists that do these types of reviews. So in this case, it was someone like that.
So Unum initially approved the claim. They paid her for approximately 10 months. Then they have their own doctor review the claim, and that doctor decides, no, you're no longer disabled. So what changed that now they thought that she could continue working 5 days a week, 40 hours a week?
So when we undertook the appeal, the first things we do is we get the entire file from Unum, because they're saying that the basis for their denial is this review of the records. Where are the records? They're in that administrative file. Where are their notes on those records? They're in the administrative file. So it's really important to kind of go through that, really that thought process on Unum's part or on their medical consultant's part, to understand what's their basis here to say that their medical records don't support the disability here or the limitations that she's talking about. And one of the things that we were quick to notice is that there was this focus on this subjectivity to her complaints. So in terms of the shooting pain, the radiating pain, the symptoms that are really kind of being experienced by her in her legs and in her hands. And one of the things that we recommended was that she have an EMG nerve conduction study done, which she did. And the EMG nerve conduction studies basically are a objective set of tests that go to show whether there's some sort of nerve injury or nerve involvement. And it was discovered that, well, the reason she's complaining of these shooting pain and the symptoms into her legs and into her hands is because she has this nerve involvement in her, it was in her S1. So that, I think, was very critical in terms of this appeal and to show and establish that there is objectivity and a reason and a basis for these complaints. Also addressing all of the, aside from this kind of blanket opinion of theirs that the records don't support it, I mean, it's just attacking how real lazy this decision was on their part.
But it seems like such a low threshold. I mean, Unum's a company doing $1 billion a year in profits. They simply, they have a doctor who's in-house. The doctor just reviews the records and says, not enough support here, deny the claim, and it's that simple for them?
It sometimes is that simple, literally. That simple. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be, because you would expect, particularly with how important these benefits are to people, that they would do more. And in some cases, they do take extra steps, and some companies act very differently in terms of that. They may get an opinion from an internal doctor that is along the lines of the doctor here, that says the records don't support the limitations or the complaints that the claimant is stating, and they'll send them out to some sort of external review or have an IME conducted or do something else. And it's a bit of a double-edged sword and a slippery slope because as that's happening, they're also building up their case. These doctors and these experts that they go to hire are insurance defense-oriented consultants and experts.
Right.
So most of the time, their opinion is going to be in line with the insurance company's desire or motivation to not continue paying these benefits.
Because most of the doctors they hire, even if they're outside doctors, they're not practicing doctors. They're like retired doctors who just do reviews, and usually those doctors are hired 99% of the time by insurance companies. So there's an inherent bias on that doctor who's supposedly independent because Unum's the one who's continually hiring him.
Right.
So if he continually finds, oh no, there's evidence here, Unum's not going to go back to that doctor. So it's incestual and unfair, even though they try to call it independent. So once you submitted this appeal, I know you put together like a 40, 50 page appeal with all the medical records, the additional evidence you obtained. I know you reached out to the treating doctors and got custom attending physician statements and lots of different things that you put together for this appeal. When you eventually were told that you won, what did the claimant really win in this particular case?
Well, what Unum had denied after paying for about 10 months was her disability from her own occupation as a legal assistant. So it was overturned, but what she wins is basically the back benefit period, and our appeal was successful in establishing that she's entitled to ongoing benefits, because that's important. Right. It's not about just this back period of benefits. If we're not able to establish within this appeal that they're entitled to monthly benefits going forward, then really it's not the victory that you could really claim. And so they did approve benefits on an ongoing basis, but now what we're coming up on is this transition to any gainful occupation. And what's important, how we're addressing that, it's usually because we anticipate that, we try to address that as much as we can within the appeal that we submitted for her own occupation. But perhaps having her undergo a functional capacity exam, do a vocational review of her ability outside of just being disabled from her own occupation as a paralegal or a legal assistant, but now in a broader range of occupations.
And I know you're continuing to represent her on a monthly basis ongoing to protect her monthly benefits, because Unum every month, the claim rep assigned to that claim has to review the file and make a determination if she's still eligible for disability according to the definition of disability. And I know every month, if claim forms are required, you submit them, or if they're every couple months, but your job continuing is to make sure that your client's in the best position possible to keep her benefits coming. So what I always suggest to claimants who are watching this video or potential clients is that they reach out to myself, to you, to any of our disability lawyers. No matter where you live in the country, we will always provide you with an immediate free consultation. Very simple, just email us a copy of your disability policy and we'll set a phone conference and we'll let you know in a matter of 10-15 minutes how we can help you. We'll answer all of your questions and we'll let you know right away what we think your chances of success will be with getting your Unum disability benefits paid. Thank you for considering our firm. Hi, I'm Gregory Dell, the managing attorney of Dell Disability Lawyers, and I hope you find the video you just watched helpful. We put these videos out all of the time, and we'd love if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. Beyond our videos on our YouTube channel, we also have lots of information available on our website at diattorney.com, and we encourage you to come to our website. The goal is that we want you to be educated about the disability insurance process, and when you get to our website, you'll see that we have information all about your specific disability insurance company, your occupation, and your medical condition. And we've designed our website such that you can easily search our website to find things that you may specifically be looking for. Now, at our website, we have thousands and thousands of pages of information, hundreds of videos that you can search, plus we're building a section of reviews of all the disability insurance companies, and we have the Ask Our Lawyer section where you can go ahead and ask us any questions that you may have. Now, we realize that you may not need us right now, but you may need us in the future to help you with your disability claim, and we think one of the best ways to keep in touch is by clicking the button below and subscribing to our channel. And most importantly, again, no matter where you live in the country, we're always available. Just go ahead and give us a call. We're happy to discuss your claim and let you know immediately if we can help you.